It's just not working right now.
What are some of the, I want to come back to that later, I think. Can you give me an example of succession, well, obviously succession planning not done or gone wrong is what you described when a business is run for so many years, X amount of years and close. Can you walk us through a good experience that maybe you helped a client with some succession planning? What's an idealish scenario?
Well, I think the ideal is the passing on your business to next generations. It's something that, frankly, your children have probably lived with as long as you lived with it. When you were 35 and they were 4 or 5 years old, they started learning about the family business. There was talk about the family business, discussions or why we can't go on vacation this week, or why we can't buy that or buy this because the business isn't doing so well right now. So I think the kids know. And I think they learn very quickly how much their family is dependent upon the business that dad owns. So if you can bring them in and let them understand what's going on without forcing them to become a part of the company, I think everyone wins. I think the biggest tragedy is when children are forced to take over the reins of a family business when they really don't want to be there. It's destined for failure. If somehow or another you talk the grandchildren or the children or whatever to come do this with their life when they really don't want to, how can they really take care of, hold and take care of to grow the business that was so important to you? It's a child of yours. It really is.
Let's talk about some the phrase that's being used to describe what a lot of people are facing as far as their financial obligations, kind of squeezing them on both sides, this sandwich generation topic, which is also a consideration when it comes to your succession planning as well.
Well, I think the advances in modern medicine have really done some great things, but have also caused this problem for this sandwich generation. Many of us are forced with the obligation of taking care of our older relatives while we are taking care of our younger relatives. We're sandwiched in the middle, and a lot of times money and time are not sufficient enough to take care of the older and the younger. That's why planning has to start very, very early. Bad planning by grandma affects generations to come. Bad planning by grandson, who may have to take care of mom and dad, oftentimes gets a little out of whack because mom and dad are stuck with the son or daughter's bad financial situation. Life happens. A divorce, illness, accident affect really the entire family, the entire extended family. And I'm not sure that that's the way it was 50 years ago. Again, I think people took responsibility for themselves, and they financially took care of themselves. Health-wise, they took care of themselves. Now, somebody else will do it. And if you happen to be that someone else, you've got to be ready.
You said a minute that I was going to come back to. Sandwiches, eating up. I hate work today. I don't know if you have any other thoughts that you want to explain about that part of it. I want to touch on your registered trademark phrase before we're done, for sure. I wanted to talk about just if you had seen anything with like Indiana being a state that has the highest credit rating in the union, a AAA bond rating since 2008, balanced budget since 2007,
Well, let's talk a little bit about just family finances,
Okay.
okay? A mistake made early in life will affect you financially forever. So we have to minimize those mistakes. They cannot be grave mistakes because you may never get yourself out of the hole. And a lot of times, parents try to help children making those mistakes. But I've seen cases where children have to help parents who have made mistakes. It again becomes when we all worked as employees and could count on a pension check every month, and when Social Security was stable and Medicare was stable and everything was taken care of by Big Brother, maybe we didn't have to think so much, or maybe we didn't have to be as involved in our finances. A lot of times people work or live from paycheck to paycheck. They didn't even have to think about retirement. Today, a lot of people are self-employed or working for small businesses that don't supply a pension plan. And therefore, if the employee is delinquent, late in starting to save, there's less and less available once you retire. The devastation of someone in their 80s who have physical needs and emotional needs and family needs, and it is just something to be held. You can't look at all of those unfortunate incidents as controllable, because they're not. All we can do is our best, whatever that is. And a lot of times doing your best by yourself is not the right answer.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to ask for help?
Well, I think that we all want to be self-sufficient until something goes wrong. And when something goes wrong, do you have a confidant? Do you have someone that you can rely upon to talk to? Or are you going through the yellow pages? I know nobody uses the phone book anymore, but are you searching the yellow pages for someone you can talk to? How do you find a consultant that you really can rely upon? Are there friends and acquaintances that you have that are exactly like you are and have the same needs? Probably not. So their experiences may be good and they may not be good with helping you find someone to work with. You've got to search those folks out. And the sooner you find somebody that you can rely upon, the better. Please don't rely upon a family member to help you make financial decisions, because they're just too close to those decisions. They're looking at their personal and your personal situation rather than the facts and circumstances.
From that outside perspective with multi-experience, experience with different scenarios, and can take that kind of clean look at things. That's what you do. That's what Laysha can do.
Well, that's what we're charged with. That's what the responsibility is. When things are going right for someone, we usually don't see them. Okay? It's when the bubble bursts, something goes wrong, okay, is when a business owner or a family starts looking for help elsewhere. We, on an ongoing basis, find potential clients that have had an accountant for years and years and years, but something's come up that they just can't handle. And rather than somehow referring that work to someone who can handle it, they either stumble their way through it or they ignore that the work needs to be done at all. And that causes problems. for just you and I walking down the street.
It's kind of shifting, like most people are trying to do with most of their life, from being reactionary to being proactive, like you would with your health. You would not brush your teeth every day, you know, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you have this huge abscess. You know, we make that analogy a lot. You know, the emphasis that folks will put on their health or certain things, that if that same, you know, minimal input into their finances a couple times a year, and having someone good looking after you just like you would a doctor or dentist, is just as important as keeping your health in good shape. And in your loved ones too. It's not just taking care of their bodies. Financially, that affects everything, perhaps even their health care.
Remember the mistakes that you make early in life, okay? The first credit card you get, okay? Overspending. Having a realtor tell you what you can afford and what you can't afford when buying a home, and then making a mistake by buying more than what
Getting
you're...
a loan in 2008.
Getting a loan in 2008. You know, timing, I mean, it's not always your fault. It's just things go wrong, and the more information you have, the better decisions you're going to make. Information is power. And if you're going to keep your eyes open, and if you're going to gather that information, and if you're going to stay on track with your decisions that you make, the better for you, your family, the generations that are sandwiching you in the middle, your business. Anymore, estate planning is even becoming more and more important. A lot of people think, again, that the reason you planned your estate is that there was a tax to pay. Upon your demise, the government is going to take one more shot at your wealth and try to get that money. Now, families with less than $10 million really don't have a problem. But that doesn't mean you don't plan. You don't have the tax problem, but you're responsible. We talk about the sandwich generation. Which of your children will you help? Will you help them all equally? Does one of them have a particular need that needs more help than the others? Is someone a spendthrift, and do you need a trust and protect them so that your assets will be available to help them during their lifetime? When something goes wrong later, will your children be the kind that they learn to save, and they can keep that inheritance for a rainy day when something goes wrong? Or is it time for a big party because your children may not have the due diligence to sit back and plan and get it done correctly? If they're of the personality that they won't do it themselves, maybe mom and dad have to do it for them. It's key. It's key.
If you care, then you should do something about it. If you care